In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the front struts on this Mazda 6. Let's install these TRQ struts. Use a 21mm socket and remove all 5 of your lug nuts, and then remove the wheel. Use a 17mm socket and break free the sway bar link nut. This might not remove it, but it'll at least break it free. The nut came off halfway, but it is spinning the entire stud. You can put a 5mm Allen in the center here. However, because we have this vibration damper, I can't use a wrench anywhere and turn the nut while I'm holding the stud. So what I'm going to do is put locking pliers on the back side of the sway bar link. There is an area that you can do this on safely without damaging the boot. You can also use a 17mm wrench, but for me it was a little bit too loose. So I'm going to go with the locking pliers and try this again. Okay, there it is. Vibration damper came off. Let's remove the ABS wire off of the strut. You can use needle nose pliers and pinch it on each side. That's going to squeeze the locking clips. Pull it out, set it aside. There's another retainer on the other side of the strut for the ABS wire. You can pinch this one also, pull it through. Remove the clip that holds the brake hose bracket in place. You can pry it out, grab it with pliers, whatever works best for you. Once you remove it, this should be able to pop through. And once you have it through, slide it out. I recommend removing the axle nut. If you are unable to do this, just be very careful, because as the knuckle comes forward, when we undo the lower strut bolts, you could separate the inner CV joint. That's why I prefer to remove it. Use a 32mm socket, remove the axle nut. Make sure it pushes through the hub. Perfect. Use a 24mm wrench on the nut side to hold it and a 21 socket on the bolt side to loosen it up. If you need to do it backwards because the bolt is stuck and you can't loosen it up, just use a 24 socket on the nut side. Do the same on the lower bolt. Tap the bolts out. To be careful of the brake hose on this one. Support the knuckle, and as the knuckle comes down, push the axle through. Make sure no ABS wire or brake hose get pulled. There we go. Pull the axle out. Let this hang like this. The ball joint is maxed out. I still have slack on both of these, and the axle is out. Under the hood, from the top, you'll see the 3 14mm mounting nuts that hold the strut onto the strut tower. We have to remove all of them. I'm going to start here just so that the closest one is closer to me and easier to access, because as the last one comes off, we have to support the strut on the bottom so it doesn't fall down. Okay. Supporting the strut from the bottom, remove the mounting nut on top, and carefully remove the strut. There it is. Take the new strut, bring it into position, and line it up with the strut tower. There we go. Install one mounting nut so it can be held in place. Now that it's held in place, put the other ones on. Snug these up. Now that these are snugged up, let's install the rest of the suspension components, and you want to torque these at the end when the vehicle is on the ground with the weight of the vehicle on the strut, so that you can have it pressed up all the way. You can get a more accurate torque that way. Before sliding the axle back through the hub, I recommend putting some anti-seize on it, just a little bit, thin layer. This will prevent it from getting stuck in the splines in the future if it ever has to be removed again. There we go. Stick the axle through, bring the knuckle up, make sure the splines on the axle line up, If not, spin the hub or the axle. There we go. And now bring the knuckle up into the strut. Have a bolt ready so you can slide it through as soon as it lines up. Remember, they went back to front. There we go. Once the top one is in, you can put the bottom one through. Tap them gently if necessary. Start on the mounting nuts. I'm going to start by tightening the top one. It's going to be easier to hold as I push the knuckle in. These don't have an adjustment, but they do have a little bit of play, so I'm going to hold it in place, tighten up the bolt. Now you can let go, tighten up the bottom one. Now let's torque them. 180 foot-pounds is the torque on these bolts. That's 180 on one. All right, that's both. Reinstall the axle nut, bottom it out. At this point, you want to torque it in 3 different passes. Well, 2. The first pass, you're going to torque it to 100 foot-pounds. Then you're going to want to loosen it 180 degrees, so half a turn. And then you want to tighten it to 200 foot-pounds. To prevent the hub from spinning, I'm going to put a pry bar through the lug studs to hold it. Make sure the pry bar is flat so it doesn't damage the studs. Once again, 100 foot-pounds. That's it right there. Now we're going to loosen it 180 degrees. That was just to seat it. And now we're going to tighten it to 200 foot-pounds. That's it. Take the brake hose, slide it through the cutout here. There's a flat side, a flat spot. You want to make sure you line that up. There we go. Mine's a little rusty, so I have to persuade it. To lock it in, put this clip back in, tap it through. Right up top here, put the ABS wire retainer back onto the strut. On the other side of the knuckle, re-secure the ABS wire on this side as well. Reattach the sway bar link on the strut. And of course, if you had the vibration damper, put that back in place. Start on the mounting nut. Snug it up. 35 foot-pounds is the torque for this. That's it. Let's get the wheel back on. Install all 5 of your lug nuts. Bottom them out in a cross pattern, but also in a cross pattern, you want to torque these to 80 foot-pounds. Once again, 80 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. Double check them all. Now that we're done with everything, the vehicle's on the ground, torque these to 43 foot-pounds. There you have it. Now go ahead and get yourself in alignment.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.